Hello there. This is the Getting to Ramen podcast. We're at episode 14 now. I should have timed it differently. I should have had episode 13 right on Halloween or something. I don't know. Missed opportunity. But anyways, this is episode 14. Today I'm sharing a conversation that I had with Kyle and Landon from Userfeed and AdReform. So they're running two products. And I've been really excited for a long time to get on a chat with these guys and talk about using customer feedback to inform a product and to make it better, especially for a customer that I don't know very well. So let's get into it. Roll tape. So to start, so I guess AdReform was first. How did that come up? Like, how did you guys come up with that idea?
Yeah, we actually both used another company together called Rigor, and it was a web performance platform. So think like New Relic or something like that. It was kind of in that world. Kyle ran engineering, I ran sales, and we decided to break off and start our own thing. But at that company, we worked with a lot of publishers, online publishers, and we would monitor their websites to figure out how how slow they were, what was slow, how to fix it, all that kind of stuff. But their main problems were centered around ads. So they wanted to figure out like why their ads were causing a poor experience. And so we kind of set out to start a company to build something that kind of would dig into ads a little bit more from a user experience perspective. Tell them, is it the creative that's causing this slowness? Like, is it a big image or something? Or is it like the exchanges behind the scenes serving the ads? Like what's causing the problem here? So we ended up, when we first started, we went out to New York City and met with like 15 to 20 companies. I just emailed all these people telling them kind of what our idea was and what we were thinking. And so we met with all of them, and we obviously would talk about our idea and try to get feedback on that. But one of the things that we'd also ask is well, what's a big pain for you guys? What's a challenge on a daily basis that's really painful, costing you money, costing you time? And this one particular thing kept coming up that we had never heard anything about. And so we actually decided, hey, let's just let's build that thing, right? That seems like that's coming up, and it's something that I think we can take on a little bit quicker and maybe get to $1 in revenue quicker. Since we were bootstrapped, that was obviously important. And so we started down that track, and that's sort of how in terms of customer feedback and building a product and business that way, it started there, and it just kind of evolved over time, and to the point where I feel like we were kind of struggling on the product feedback side and just organizing it all and making sure we were prioritizing in a way that made sense. And obviously getting a lot of our customer support was coming through Intercom. And so we were like, hey, let's just build a little tool for Intercom, right? And so Kyle built that initially, and it wasn't Userfeed, it was just a thing that we built internally. And then eventually we were like, hey, this is pretty cool. Let's make this public and add the right features and pricing and all that kind of stuff. So we launched it in about a month. Launched it on Product Hunt, and so far it's gone really well. So now we've got two products, which is kind of strange, but it's actually worked out pretty well. A lot different than I initially thought it would when we first started it. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Kyle.
That pretty much sums it up. Yeah, I mean, we started it as an internal tool, and then we just happened to hit the timing right with Intercom. So they started releasing more stuff for their platform, and we were building on it right at that time. So I think that really helped us. That kind of prompted us to say, hey, this should be maybe a commercial thing. Because not only are they investing in the platform and we're already building on it, but there's a lot more stuff we can do now that enables. We were building a lot of kind of hacks on top of what they had with webhooks and stuff. And so what they built with their Messenger app platform was perfect for what we were trying to do. So it felt like a good time to just, we'll try something new. So yeah, here we are.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard that Josh Pigford at Barometrics. He was saying that you really have to get the timing right for the integration, the cross promotion of integrations to be like a really good growth strategy. And with Barometrics, they launched their integration with Stripe, and Stripe was promoting them, and they did the same thing with Slack, and that worked really well. But it was because they were launching these app stores at that time. Whereas if I go in now and try to promote an integration with Slack or with Stripe, it's just not going to be as beneficial. So you guys were there at the right time.
I was going to say it's interesting on that front because we kind of lucked out in terms of timing, and then I think we had an initial boost from that, and then as they kept trying to promote the platform, we got like we weren't the cool new kid anymore for a little bit, but we basically kept bugging all the people over there to stay top of mind. And ultimately, I think the fact that we're entirely built on intercom just continues to set us apart in a way that they would give us a little more attention, I guess. So yeah, it's definitely not easy to rely so heavily on someone to help promote you, but it's been a good experience with intercom.
Yeah, we've definitely had some struggles with, as there's been more apps coming onto the store. How do you stand out? How do you get intercom to promote you? And so we've been this just like product, like a constant cycle of optimize and iterate, and trying to just kind of improve a little bit every day and build a little bit better relationship with them every day. We've figured out a lot of we don't want to say too much, but we figured out some little loopholes and things to make sure that our product and our app are getting eyeballs. But yeah, it's been interesting, but yeah, we kind of caught it right at the right when they sort of started promoting it. So that was really good timing. And again, to Kyle's point, it does help to be hey, we're built 100% on intercom, versus just everything else. I think there's 3 products on intercom that are hey, we're built for intercom, right? And then the rest of them are all just light third-party integrations. So we're hoping at some point they make an entire collection or category for apps that are built fully on intercom. So we'll see, but that's definitely helped too.
And so to kind of step back a second, so could you explain what AdReform is, the problem it solves, and how it solves it?
Yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into it because it starts getting into the weeds of weird stuff that people probably won't understand unless they're in the the ad tech industry. And if you're watching the video and I keep taking my headphones off, it's because there's an echo and it's hard to talk. But so AdReform is it's an ad operations tool. So every online publisher, ad tech company, even some larger advertisers, they have teams internally that they call ad operations teams. And these are just people that are focused on everything from serving the ads to QAing the ads before they go live, to optimizing and reporting on these campaigns. So at every different type of ad tech company, they do a little bit, something a little bit different, but across the board, they do a lot of just very manual, tedious activities on a daily basis, a lot of which are in spreadsheets and in Photoshop and PowerPoint. And so it's just there's an endless amount of things that they're doing that are what I would consider a big waste of time. And so what we've tried to build is a platform with a number of different tools that automates certain aspects of what they're doing. So we've started out with a couple things. So not to go too much in detail, just because it just gets weird. But there's an ad screenshots tool, which is a big requirement in the industry that they have to show screenshots of their ads for campaigns. And so that's one of the tools. And we also have a ad QA tool, which tests the user experience of the ad that you upload into our system. And then we also have a ad landing page QA tool. So basically testing, for every campaign, which there may be 10 or there may be thousands of ads per campaign, just being able to test do these ads actually go to a landing page that's live, right? Or is it a 404 or the wrong landing page? Does the like the visual creative for the ad, does that match the landing page? So being able to quickly see that before, people are just like literally just like loading ads on their browser, clicking the ads, going to the landing page. Okay, that's one. I got 1,000 more, and then just like going back and forth. And so we do all this stuff through like browser automation. And just automate a lot of those different things. We've got a lot of things that we still want to automate, but that's essentially how we bring value to ad operations teams.
The last company that I worked at, we had hundreds of ads, and we were doing that all manually.
Watching people do that stuff manually is hard to watch. So it's been fun going from, we've literally gone into offices and watched people do their jobs and then ship something that makes that all go away, and that feels very satisfying.
The nice thing about that space, at least for us, is there's just it's ad operations is they don't get a lot of love from the SaaS community, meaning there aren't a lot of products built for them, especially in kind of some of the different things that we solve. Like there's almost like no products, so it is pretty niche, but that's a good place to be, right? Like, we don't have a lot of competition. It's definitely something where, the majority, like we've talked about it before in some of our blogs and the podcast, but when you're a bootstrapper, like you have to find free channels. Like you aren't going to have the resources or the time to kind of go the paid acquisition route, at least in the beginning, like in the early stages. And so with AdReform, it's mostly been through like Google search and a little bit of like outbound sales type stuff, but mostly just people finding out about us like through Google search and stuff. So obviously being a fairly, for us being a free channel. So it's been nice to be kind of in that niche. And then, on the other side of things, while we are in a bit of a niche in terms of how we solve the problem for user feedback, there's a lot of tools out there for feedback, right? So that's been a completely different world, right? Just like a lot of competition, a lot of things going on. And so we've had to kind of niche down to a specific piece of that and solve that problem in a better way. But it's just like two very different markets.
Yeah, for sure. And so initially you guys actually went out and met with these potential customers for AdReform. Were those contacts that you had from the previous job, or how did you find those?
A few of them. I'd probably say like maybe 10% of the companies that we met with were people that we had met with in the past. But most of it, honestly, it was just cold email or LinkedIn. Like it was, hey, we just started this company. We don't have a product yet, but this is the problem we want to solve, and we'd love to get your feedback. I feel like a lot of people don't do this, but like if what you're solving is actually a pain point, people will meet with you whether you have a product or not, right? Especially if you can say, add a little legitimacy to it, like, hey, this is where we came from. This is like the product that we've built before, or the products that we've built before. So you're not just some rando that, like, for all they know, can't do anything. And so, we added that to it, but like, yeah, it's just straight up kind of just grinding away, cold reach out. And we, in a 3-day period, I think we went on, it was 15 to 20 meetings. I think it was 18 is what it was, but, which is like crazy, right? And we're not even, we're not from New York. So there was a lot of interest in solving this problem. So I think that definitely helped. That was a part of it. But, obviously we reached out to a lot of people to try to pull together some meetings, but yeah, I think I would definitely recommend that people talk to as many people in the industry that, they're trying to break into before they ever build anything. And make sure that, you're not just focused on what your idea is, but like just trying to find out more about what they do on a daily basis and some of the struggles that they have. 'Cause you might end up finding, some other product avenues that you weren't initially aware of.
You're hearing more and more that, like, how valuable this is. I know that there's a talk that Jason Cohen did from WP Engine. He was just saying how, like, when he initially reached out about to potential customers, he even offered to pay them for their time he's like, hey, I want to solve this problem. I'll pay you whatever that hour is worth to you. And nobody actually ended up asking for the money, but it was just they understood that he was serious about it.
I think that's one thing that I really like about Userfeed is that we always think about customer conversations as like this project that you do or something, where before you build anything or when you're building a feature, you do this like one-time project where you reach out to people and set up calls and go do this stuff, which of course can be super valuable, is also, if you're an introvert or not wired that way, is exhausting. But those kind of conversations shouldn't be, and they don't have to be, one-time projects. Like, that should be an ongoing effort that you have. And if you're talking to customers in support, or, I mean, that's the primary channel. When you're talking to customers in support, those conversations can easily become the similar type of conversation. That's uncovering pain points, edges of like what your product can do, where competitors might have you beat. Like, that's coming through in those channels if you're listening. And that's one reason we love Intercom and why we built Userfeed, was to help kind of pivot the way people think about that. So it's not just like someone has problem, fix problem, and then stop talking. It's like someone took the time to write me, and I should try to capture as much value. Well, I think Jason Fried just had a tweet about getting rid of the word capture. So I agree with that. I should try to like extract as much from this conversation as I can. And we found that like that's the best time to do that, is when they're trying to do something and it doesn't work, or it doesn't work like they expect, or they don't know where to look. Not only are you learning, hey, maybe we should improve our UX on that thing, but maybe what they're actually trying to do is something completely different. And so I think those they're completely different orientations, but the idea of talking to people and getting at what the actual jobs they're trying to accomplish is something that shouldn't just be a one-time effort.
Kind of switching over to Userfeed here, can you explain what Userfeed is, and then maybe an example of how you would use it?
Yeah, sure. So in the simplest terms, Userfeed is a lightweight feedback layer on top of Intercom. So we started building it at AdReform, especially because we aren't from the AdOps background. That kind of helped us think of support the right way, I would say, because we had to use those opportunities to extract that information from people. So in all these conversations we're having in Intercom, we're trying to learn more about what people are trying to do, why, what are the like different aspects of everything. And we wanted to easily centralize that we were getting, and then prioritize it, talk about it, and then build it, and ultimately tell the people that told us, like, hey, we shipped a thing to help you do that. So that's what we started out trying to solve, is how do we do that in a lightweight way? We're already having all these conversations in Intercom, and so Userfeed lets you convert parts of conversation into feedback, and then you can either attach to existing feedback or submit new feedback. There's a fair amount you can do, but it keeps those conversations linked to the feedback so you can reference them later. If and when you decide to build something, you can go look at like the actual context of those issues. It links all the users as well, so you can, if you need more information, you can reach out to one or all through Intercom. And then if you do decide to ship something, you can click and message them all in Intercom. So you're using all the tools you already use, and you just have this holding area for all this feedback type
Another
of stuff.
thing is like, obviously user interviews are super popular, right? It's like get on the phone and kind of talk it out. Which requires you to like schedule a call and get, just like this, right? Like it took time, and we got to schedule a call a couple weeks in advance, and then it's going to be like an hour long. And surveys, right? Like you send out a survey. The problem is with all those different methods is typically, you will potentially get some good feedback, but, you're not getting the raw feedback in the moment and in the place that the user is having it, right? So like if you're on a call with them, it's like, okay, I'm trying to rack my brain right now to remember some stuff that maybe was a challenge, or whatever. And so they're going to give you that information. But like if they are talking to you in live chat inside your app and telling you about a problem that they're having in the moment, like that's the rawest form of feedback. So why not focus on that and gather that, that important information when they're having it. So that was another big reason why, like, whether you're using Userfeed or not, right? Like, it's like those are the moments that can be super impactful from a quality of feedback standpoint. And so anybody that's running a SaaS product out there, I think they should be using some sort of product to be able to, gather that information from users like in the moment. So that was another reason why we built it on top of Intercom.
So you just hit $250,000 in annual recurring revenue.
Woohoo!
Congratulations. That's
Thanks.
pretty huge.
Yes.
So how long since you started AdReform until you got to that point?
So I think we wrote the first line of code for AdReform in January of 2017. That was like when we started like messing around. Kyle started it was mostly like research, right? Like he was like, I think writing some initial scripts and messing around, trying to see if, can we do this thing? It's been a little bit over 2.5 years since we started AdReform. We didn't get our first customer till about 4 months in. So we're sitting there at flat at zero for about 4 months. And then Userfeed has been, I guess, about a year and 3 months, something like that. So, I feel like that's, for a bootstrap company, it feels pretty fast to get to that 250K mark. I'd say the main reason why we're there though is just that we've really had great numbers on the churn side. And we wrote about this too, and I think we talked about it, but if there's anything that's helped us to get to that point, it's been really not having much churn, and then also being able to increase our pricing and still be able to bring on kind of the same amount of customers, and then also be able to, like, most of our customers, if not all of them, have upgraded at some point. So we have a pretty solid kind of upgrade path. So that's been like the biggest reasons I'd say we got there. But the early days it wasn't easy for a while. And we never took any money or anything. So like we were like just straight up not paying ourselves for a long time. And that was tough for probably tougher for our wives. I would say they were not as pleased about it, but yeah, there was definitely some hard times in there. So like 6 months in, I got grand jury duty for 2 months. I don't know if anybody out there has ever been on grand jury, but like I never knew about this, but apparently grand jury duty is like 2 months where you go in 3 days a week for the entire like work day, and you hear like 100 cases every day, and you just basically say yes or no whether it goes to trial. But long story short, I had to do that for 2 months, like 6 months into our business. And so it's just like, come on, like nothing can go right. We only had a couple customers, and it was just like, that was just like a miserable like 2 months. But yeah, I mean, it's not all, it's going to be hard. So if you're out there trying to start a company, like just expect it to be hard from the start. I think expectations are good. Like you should expect for it to be really hard. I don't know that I had that at first. And, so I sort of hit like, oh my gosh, like what is going on right now? I thought this was going to be, a little bit easier. So it was, you run into those hard times if you don't have those expectations up front.
Right. And so did you guys go full-time right away then?
Yeah. Yep. So we both left the last place at different points of the end of 2016. And then we started kind of beginning of 2017. That's when we hit it and went up to New York and started poking around at some software solutions and stuff. So yeah, so that was a little unique maybe, I think. Like I feel like more and more people I hear doing it this way typically are like trying to find different income streams. We kind of didn't do it that way. And like I picked up a little bit of contract stuff. I know Landon did a little bit of that as well, but like much more, we were full-time on the business, super part-time on contract work, as opposed to the opposite. None of that stuff lasted too long because it was, once we got a few customers and we were kind of finding our way, it was like, I think we can just focus on this and suffer a little longer on the salary side and get there. So
like, just to be fair, like both of our wives work. And so that was, I mean, like if like you have a significant other that doesn't work or needs to be home with the kids or whatever it may be, like that makes it a lot harder, I think. So we definitely had that. I know some people out there, like I've just been in like Twitter conversations or something where people are, they're like, I can't do that because of X, Y, and Z in my life. And that totally makes sense. But I like to mention that because I feel like, some people out there aren't in those situations, and they're just like, how could you possibly not take money? Like, how could you not like pay yourself for that long? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't think I could ever do that. And so, yeah, we did have some things that helped, from that perspective, but, there are other, obviously, there are a ton of different avenues now for early stage kind of bootstrap funding to like ease into that, make that easier. Some of the ways that people did it before was like contract work or working in another company and doing it on the side, obviously doing it as a side project. So those are great ways. And sometimes I think maybe we should have done that, but, we're past that now. So, but I don't know. I mean, I think if we were to start a company again down the road, like some of these other, capital sources like Earnest or Tiny Seed or one of these, different companies might be a good option, to go that route and not have to like, take a year off from getting paid anything.
Right.
So that was our path. So can't really go back and change it now.
So we started AdReform at the beginning of 2017. My wife actually had just gotten her real estate license, and so she switched careers from teaching to real estate in the middle of 2017. And we found out we were having our first baby in like March or April of 2017. So I would say like that confluence, we had, she still had some income coming in from teaching, and then she hit the ground running on real estate, but it was definitely not like an obvious thing that was going to happen, when you're switching. And then we had a baby coming. And so there was a period there, I think, when I was just like grinding so hard, when I was just like, oh gosh, this is getting real. And that was probably like right around when Landon was on grand jury duty. I was just like in the basement building stuff.
I specifically remember when we were like out with you and Claire, and she says like, I'm pregnant. And I thought she was joking first. And then I looked at you and you were like, yep. So we got to make money now. And I was like, I just remember being like, so like scared. I was like, oh no. Like it almost was worse than it being my own baby. Right. Like it was like, oh no, like I gotta do this for him. And him and Claire, like we gotta make money. Cause I felt like we're both obviously involved in like helping the company make money, but me being like having a sales background and that kind of stuff, like I felt like a little bit responsible for bringing money into the company. So I was getting super scared. And then I get the grand jury thing. And it's like, I just remember that whole like 1 or 2 months was just like, that was one of the lower points that I've probably ever had. Like, it was just like, I was doubting myself, and, it was just like a hard time. A lot of curveballs getting thrown at you when you're already trying to do like one of the hardest things, which is like bootstrap a company, and make it successful. And so it was just like, man, what is going on? Are we going to get a break here? Like what's happening? So, but we got through it and got over that hump. And I think that's a lot of what like building a SaaS company or building a bootstrap SaaS company, whatever, you end up doing. I think a lot of it is just like, how long can you like survive? Like, can you just last long enough to get over the humps? Like most people, I feel like can't do that. Whether that's because they literally can't do it for like real financial reasons, which totally makes sense, or they can't do it because they're just like dying inside, like it's just like, it's too hard. And I totally get that too. But it's just like how, I think that's most of it is just like, can you just keep going? Can you just take a step forward every day? Can you just get that 1% better every day and just keep doing it consistently? I think that's like probably like 80% of the battle. But I see a lot of people talking about the market being the battle and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's true to some extent, but I think a lot of it is just like, how long can you just keep pushing to get 1% better every day? Even if your market's not great, like you can still have a successful outcome, especially if you're bootstrapped and it doesn't need to be this big thing. If you can just keep getting a little better, I think most people would have success eventually. But yeah, it was a crazy time for sure.
Oh yeah, I think this was a really good insight into kind of the journey. Really appreciate that you guys took the time today to go through some of this with me, and I think there's stuff here that's just going to be valuable to a lot of people starting out.
I was about to say, like, this feels so different from the previous podcast, because I feel like in the last podcast you were getting interviewed and you were talking the whole time. And then I feel like in this one, it's like just us talking the whole time. But That's cool. You have like a different thing going on every week.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting. I'm still kind of figuring out what this is going to look like, but ultimately the goal is the networking part of this has been huge, and the learning part. I've just like been learning a ton from the conversations and also the early episodes where I was just kind of going through my own thoughts and stuff. It's just good to reflect.
Yeah, the first episode I heard was one with a baby crying in the background, and I was just like, I remember walking in and telling Kyle, I was like, I just heard this podcast. There's like the podcast was about like having kids and trying to start a company, and also like the overall theme was just like a baby crying in the back, and I was like, I get that. But we've been on calls where I think we've probably both been on calls where baby's screaming in the back, but I specifically remember one customer call where Kyle's little one just lost it, total meltdown, and it was like so loud, and Kyle was trying to respond to this guy, and I just remember looking at this guy on the video, and he was like just not pleased. Obviously didn't have kids, because he was like, he just did not get it.
Right.
And but that's okay. They're still customers, so we're all good.
You also get that mute effect where it's like you're on mute to make it stop, but then when you unmute to talk, it's just like instant, extremely loud. So I think it makes it a little worse in some way.
Yeah. Well, this is real life. That's really valuable. I'm really appreciating the entrepreneurs and founders that have families and are being open and about what it's really like, because that's just another piece to the already difficult, slow SaaS ramp of death.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Awesome.
All right, see ya.
Thanks so much for listening. When I went back through and edited this, there was some parts that really stuck out to me, specifically around the part where Landon was talking about how hard it is to build a business and how important it is to just keep pushing 1% a day and just keep trying to make progress consistently. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff here. So don't forget to check out userfeed.io. If you're on Intercom, just go install Userfeed. Give it a try. You won't be disappointed. And as well as AdReform.com if you need an intelligent ad operations assistant. And also hit up Landon and Kyle on Twitter. Landon is LandonB32. And Kyle is Kyle Conarro, at Conarro. So Conarro. You can also tweet at me at Getting to Ramen on Twitter. And let me know what you thought of the show. Let me know how you're feeling so far about Getting to Ramen. Should I keep going? I'm Josh. I already introduced myself, so have a great day. You will hear from me next week, sir or madam.